Hey everybody, welcome to the Curt Schilling Baseball Show, episode 59. We're getting close. Crunch time, Billy.
It's
Uh,
coming.
yeah, it is. There's a lot of clarity for the postseason and a ton of ambiguity, which is good for the baseball, good for fans. And we're going to dive right in talking about Shohei Ohtani, who had his Tommy John surgery. Um, Nothing surprising. The doctor said, I expect a full recovery. He'll be ready to hit without any restrictions opening day. And he'll be ready to pitch. In 24, he'll hit, and in 25, he's going to come back and pitch again. Um, to be clear, I don't know why it was not announced what the exact procedure was, but I'm assuming that they all know.
Well,
He's still going to demand monster money this winter.
absolutely. But I thought it was significant that they said it wasn't Tommy John, but it was some kind of a procedure to strengthen the ligaments that were still there,
Right.
which to me, talk about ambiguity.
Well, it's one of those things where this is a very weird area. Baseball medical science. When was the last time that you ever read about someone screwing up a Tommy John surgery?
Yeah,
Never?
never.
Right. Are you saying that everyone has gone flawlessly?
No,
Okay. And so when was the last time you heard a surgeon talk about screwing up a shoulder surgery?
uh, often.
Never.
Oh,
No, no, you don't, you'll never know the truth.
right. Okay.
Because
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
right. Here's the thing, though. They could have gone in and there could have been no damage whatsoever to the ligament. It's entirely possible because MRIs are not exact science. And then they come out and say, well, we fixed everything. Well, the surgeon looks like a genius if there wasn't actual tears, right? Because he heals
Sure.
perfectly and he's fine. It's a very weird, and you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. So there's a lot at stake.
Yeah.
And these doctors live to be the team physician for the Anaheim Angels. I mean, that's a calling card. Think about, would you know who Frank Jobe was?
No.
Would you know who Dr. Andrews? You wouldn't know any of these people if they weren't associated with these professional teams. So getting on that business card is a huge deal. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong here, but generally when something like that happens, when they don't go into detail, they don't give specifics, it gets back to the very simple Occam's razor. Just ask why.
Right.
A very simple reason, because they didn't want you to know. Because if it was Tommy John, they would have just said it was Tommy John,
Sure.
right? Um, which concerns me, but the medical reports will be what they are, and the teams that are involved will get to read them, so they'll know. But I think the other issue is that and it's not a law. I mean, it's amazing we're talking about this, but he's a guy on his second Tommy John.
Right.
I don't think it means anything for hitting. I mean, he can still play out his entire career and be a premium middle of the bat, like Hall of Fame caliber, statistically driven hitter. But I think it has an enormous impact on pitching, on his workload, on everything, and you're going to see a guy come back to pitch who hasn't pitched for 2 years when he does. So I have no idea I certainly wouldn't bet against him, obviously. A lot of questions. And it's going to be an interesting offseason because, like I said, you're talking about a guy who would have signed for a 35 or $40 million annual deal as a hitter and probably signed that same contract as a pitcher. And probably signed double that as a combined player. Now he's going to be kind of a little of each, depending on how the deal goes. And if I'm him, I probably sign a mega 2-year deal and get 100 million or whatever the number might be, and then go back out in the market if I trust myself that I'm going to come back and pitch. So on to Philadelphia. So Kyle Schwarber is was a Moneyball guy. I mean, I remember when Theo brought him and the Cubs got him and talked about power. He's got as much power as anybody in the big leagues. He hit a home run, and I think I saw it the other day, John, that went out of the stadium, or Bill, and I
Yeah,
can't
I know
remember.
you don't like feet, but that was like 450 feet.
Yeah, and I remember hearing Crucky like, "Oh my God!" Like when he hit it. But we mentioned it because as of Tuesday night, Schwarber was hitting 198. And he's going to become the first player in baseball to score 100 runs, knock in 100, hit more than 40, and then strike out 200 or more times, and have a batting average south of 200. And this reminds me, this is not Aaron Judge, but Adam Dunn, who was a guy who did this very thing. The thing about it is, and the reason it's a big deal, I think, in the day and age of sabermetrics, he's got a 345 on base percentage. And if you remember in Moneyball, when Billy Beane was arguing with some of the players, he's like, what do I care how you get on with a walk or a hit? I don't care. And Schwarber the league average is right around 320 for on base percentage. He's at 345, and he's going to have that year. Now, I don't know what that looks like from a contractual obligation, but he's a 40 homer guy who's going to drive in 100 and score 100, which means he's getting on base and he's driving in runs. He's doing he just doesn't have the batting average. And I think it further, and I hate to say this, especially as like an old school guy, but I think it further de-emphasizes batting average. It shows you that you can be a star in the big leagues, in the modern day sense of star, by not hitting. My argument would be if he actually was hitting about 240, his on-base percentage would be closer to 400. He'd have more home runs and all the other things to go with that. But
and he is loved in Philadelphia.
well, he's
one of those guys.
He's kind of one of those. He looks like a blue collar guy, kind of thick build, heavy set. Doesn't appear to be the best athlete, but he's also obviously a phenomenal athlete. And like I said, his power is off the charts. It always has been. Getting into the fun stuff, though, we talked about the other day. Seems like the Orioles are in every conversation we have now around postseason. They went through Tampa, came back to win the last two, and a monster final game comeback in the 8th inning. City's going crazy. Then they run into the Astros, and you kind of look for maybe a little bit of a letdown. They take the first two from Houston, and they put Houston and Texas closer together. And Seattle and Texas have continued to win. So, going into Thursday's games, a half game, we're separating all three teams, which is awesome. And the Astros, they'll host Kansas City for 3. Then they go to Seattle for 3, and they finish in Arizona with 3. And Arizona's in the wild card hunt, so those are going to be big games. Rangers go to Seattle. Seattle's got the toughest. 7 of the last 10, the Rangers and Mariners play. And then they got Anaheim with 3 in the middle. So Seattle's 10 games are against Houston and Texas, which, you know what?
Control your own destiny.
I would much prefer to have my destiny on the field opposing me rather than on the scoreboard watching. So that the AOS is going to play out fun. And, my God, I hate to say that Major League Baseball is just immensely successful in their forethought, but this wild card and this race are going to make it amazing. And I mean, you add in the NL wild card, and then you've got kind of a unique situation. The top 2 records in the division winners get the bye. Well, now the Twins are creeping back because the Astros are losing. They're 4 back with 9 to play, which means they're probably not going to make it, but they have a shot. Because Correa went on the DL, plantar fasciitis. Royce Lewis is playing.
He missed Wednesday with his hamstring, and he missed one day over the weekend. So I think they're up against it, but still.
But their last 9 games are Anaheim, Oakland, and Colorado.
Right.
So, that obviously opens up a door, but it's not under their control. And basically what that means right now, looking at today, Tampa and Baltimore are locked in. Whatever one of them wins the division wins the a bye. The other one doesn't. Obviously, again, that's monstrous. The Blue Jays are ahead of Texas and Seattle by a game. For second, Yankees are their magic number to be eliminated is 3, so they're going to be going home very soon.
Yes, but as a New York fan, which I grew up, the Yankees are never dead until the Yankees are dead, and that's why that made the rundown.
Oh yeah.
Their magic number for elimination is 3. All we need is them to lose 3.
There are Yankee fans who have gamed it out and figured out exactly how they can do it, and they're going to be crushed in a couple days, but we'll let them have their fun. Over the National League, the Phillies have the number 1 spot, wild card spot. They're up 4, so they're, unless you have an epic 64 Phillies collapse, they're up 4 with 10 left. Diamondbacks have a game and a half up with 9 left. Cubs are in 3rd with 10 games left. The Marlins are a half game back. The Reds are a game back and 8 to play. And I got to tell you, that's pretty amazing. The Giants have their number to be eliminated is 8, so they're still in it. But these races are going to make the last 2 weeks a lot of fun, and I that's good for baseball.
I don't remember, Curt, where you went into the last 10 games of the regular season with this much intrigue with this many teams.
Yeah, I mean, usually you're getting a race, right?
Yeah,
maybe
a race.
2 division races or a wild card race, but right now you're talking about close to 10 teams who are honestly, literally in control of their own destiny in many ways, and that's good for baseball. That's great for baseball, and you'll, like I said, you're going to see. For you guys that are battling for playoff spots, it's a very insightful opportunity for your younger players to see what they're like in the pressure of playoffs. For you guys, like I said this the other day, there's an argument 2 and 4, that long layoff that Atlanta's going to have because they already clinched. Do you want to play in playoff games literally up until the final day of the season and then have 1 day off and go right back into it? It depends on your makeup of your club. But that's that. And then the Braves are the first team in Major League history to have 4 guys hit 35 or more homers. Olsen, 52, Acuna Jr., 39, Riley, 36, and Osuna, 35. Ozzie Albies has 31 with 10 games left. Yeah, I don't have anything to comp that to.
This is where I want this to go.
I also argue, though, that is not as much a byproduct of great offensive hitters as it is in the reduction in quality pitching. I think that there is as much to talk about around the lack of quality pitching and that being home run stuff as opposed. You've got a league full of throwers where velocity is the key factor as opposed to a league full of pitchers. And you know that because there is no Jimmy Key. There is no John Tudor. There is no, who's Greg Maddux today?
Yeah.
Those guys don't exist because there's been a de-emphasis in quality pitchers as opposed to an emphasis on hard throwers. And that's why strikeouts are up and home runs are up because and you'll see it during the playoffs. It's really hard to watch as a pitcher too.
But this is where I want you to talk about the best lineups you faced.
Yeah, so the best ones that in the 1993 Blue Jays in the World Series were probably, at the time, hitting as well as any team I'd ever seen. You had Ricky Henderson, Roberto Alomar, John Allroot, Joe Carter, Paul Molitor, Pat Borders, Tony Fernandez. They were as good as, and they were in the cusp of winning a second World Series, consecutive World Series. Right up to Joe Carter walking us off. The late 90s Yankees with Jeter and O'Neill and Tino Martinez and Posada.
How about the late 90s Mariners? Joey Cora, A-Rod, Griffey Jr.,
I would
Martinez.
tell you that I still think the best lineup I ever saw was the late 90s Indians with Lofton and Manny Ramirez and
Roberto
Tomei,
Alomar,
Roberto Alomar,
Joey
and
Bell,
Joey
Albert Bell.
Bell. I mean, they were how they didn't win more
We
than
didn't
they
even
did.
bring up Jim Tomei.
Jim Tomei, right? Hall of Fame. I mean, like
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
probably
that was pretty sick.
that was probably the best lineup I saw. I don't remember. I don't think I faced that lineup. Um, but I did see the late '90s Yankees, and then that '93 Blue Jays team gets a nod. And I got to tell you, don't go to sleep on the Cardinals in the early thousands. The Cardinals, we had a great series with them. That was when they had McGuire, Roland, Edmonds,
Pujols.
Pujols, Renteria, Vina, and then you added Scott Rowland to that mix as the 2000s went on.
Tony Womack was on that team.
Yep, we did. I saw them in 2001, and then we saw them again in 2004 in the World Series.
And the team you never had to face that might have had the best lineup of all of them,
yeah,
was your 2004 World Series team.
Yeah, the '04 Red Sox, and that was why my ERA wasn't over 4, because I pitched for them rather than against them. I got a so this is a story near and dear to my heart, actually. Yusei Kikuchi of the Blue Jays left his Tuesday night start against New York in the 6th inning with neck cramps. He expects to make his next start. Kikuchi said it was possible that the cramps were related to him getting only 11 hours of sleep the night before, as opposed to his typical 13 or 14. He had struck out 7 and given up a run in 5 innings. The Jays won the game. So I would laugh at that if it weren't a Japanese player, because their rituals, their orientation, their off the field stuff is so drastically different than American born players that might actually be a thing. He might actually need 13 to 14 hours of sleep on the night before he pitches, and I don't have a problem with that. They do things so drastically different over there that that might be his thing. So
what was your thing?
You know what? I didn't have one. Like I was always terrified of being late to the ballpark. So I was early. I was I was telling you, I literally, and this is, I guess, my life and defining it. My nightmare now, and I've had it recently, is I have a nightmare that I wake up at like 6:45 for a 7:30 game that I'm pitching. And when I wake up, I literally can't breathe. Like, because I have to hurry up and get to the ballpark. I can't do any of my stuff. I have to go out to the mound, like literally not warming up. Like I know it's probably in the scale of things a first world problem, but that's my nightmare. Like I literally have that nightmare that, and I've had the one like Nuke Lelouch. I've had the one being out in the mound naked. That nightmare, but like that's not even remotely as scary as being late for my start. And it really is honestly like a chest pain inducing thing when I have it. I wake up like in a panic, and that's my that's my thing. So definitely isn't sleeping for 13 or 14 hours, because I can do that at the drop of a hat. So
hey, before we go, you brought up pitchers earlier that aren't like that. I saw this week Adam Wainwright got his 200th win.
He did.
And he's on the cusp of retiring. But Adam Wainwright is one of those guys you're talking about. He was a pitcher's pitcher.
Right. He ran the gamut. I mean, he had a power arm. He did some things. He closed. He started, and lifelong Cardinal. I think 200 is almost, I don't want to say it is, but it's borderline the old school 300, in the sense that, it's just a different game now. I think if I'm not mistaken, Maddox was the last 300 guy.
Yes.
And I think he'll be the last 300 guy we see.
Probably. Yeah.
Especially now with the openers and all the other stuff that goes on. But yeah, and tip of the cap to Adam for having a phenomenal career, won some World Series, always did it right, classy, played the game hard, played the game right. and was instrumental in a town that will revere him forever. St. Louis is one of the greatest baseball cities on the planet, and kudos to him for being able to have an amazingly long, lengthy career and a successful career, and for number 200, it's kind of cool. It's a number I can identify with, and I always kind of feel good talking about, because I think it is a big deal. So congratulations to Adam Wainwright. All right. Anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us Apple, Spotify, OutKick. We'd love you to go to OutKick and find it there. We're going to get into the playoffs next week, Billy. I'm going to start talking postseason baseball, and some baseball that I'm comfortable talking about and have a little knowledge about. Give you a preview, but I'll give you a hint. If your team doesn't have power pitching, then make your tee times. This is going to be an October with some big time power arms coming out of that Atlanta rotation, and some other guys as well. So have a great week. We'll catch you guys on the flip side next week for the beginning of what's going to be the countdown to the postseason. So have a great weekend, guys.